Hey everyone, so in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you all a little guide to how to apply cream blush. So not only am I going to be sharing with you guys how to apply the cream blush, but I'm also going to be sharing with you guys 3 different blush looks on how I typically apply my cream blush. We're going to be doing like a really plushy, classic cream cheek look, a more sculpted look to really add dimension into the skin, and then we're going to be doing a more brightened under eye look, which is the last one I did. So that is what's on my cheeks right now. I love cream blush because they just tend to look less flat. They look more realistic on my skin, and I really want to fake that flushed, plushy cheek look. And I think that cream blushes just really get you there. I think anyone can use cream blush. You just have to find the right formula for you. So there are so many videos on my channel on how to find the right cream blush for you, but I will leave my cream blush beginner's guide. I mentioned a lot of different formulas for a lot of different skin types, but kind of the rule of thumb is that the more thin and pigmented a blush is, the more long wearing it is and the more suited for oilier skin types it's going to be. So for example, I'm using 2 different formulas today. The Rare Beauty blushes are absolutely exceptional for all skin types. So even if you have oily skin, I highly recommend these. But if you do have more dry to normal combination skin, that's when I would recommend the Kjaer Weis ones. You guys, I love both, but I will show you how I use both of these formulas. 3 different looks. I hope it's really, really helpful. And if you guys do find it helpful, please let me know down below and let's jump right in. Okay, so first we're going to start off with that really pretty like plushy cheek, like classic cream blush look. And really for like an all-around good cream blush, look for something with a really nice emollients to it. So I do think that like part of the reason why cream blush is so easy to apply is the actual creamy quality to it. So if you're starting out, I think it's great to stick with a very classic traditional cream blush formula and then kind of venture out into some of the more hybrid products. So for a very beautiful like classic cream blush, and the one that I'm going to use today, I'm using the ones from Kjaer Weis, and this is the shade Blossoming. It's just a really easy to wear pinky shade. Also, Kjaer Weis is having their friends and family like 25% off sale. I'll leave a link down below, but it hasn't started for everyone, but they did send me like a preview link. So if you guys use that link, you can get access to the sale early. The Kjaer Weis cream blush formula is really perfect for that very natural flush to your cheeks. It's not a formula, it's really difficult to work with. But the #1 tip I would have for applying cream blushes, even if they're not in a compact, if they're in like a stick format or if they're in a liquid, I know that you guys have probably seen everyone on like Instagram or, you know, wherever apply the product directly to the cheek. Like if I were to take this Rare Beauty blush, I would, you know, stripe it right onto the cheek, which honestly, you can still get a good blend that way, but it's gonna take you a little bit longer to get there sometimes, depending on the formula that you're working with. So I always recommend to take a brush into the stick or, you know, into the pan and then apply it onto the cheeks. And even in between those steps, applying a little bit on the back of your hand to really warm up the product to take away any excess product. And I really find that the product becomes easier to control that way. So if you've used like a lot of cream stick makeup and you're like, I just don't know why I can't get this to blend, and you've just been, you know, applying it directly to the skin, I really highly recommend that you try this method instead. Let me show you the way that I would apply this to my cheeks. Before we get into placement, as far as tools go, I really believe that a dry sponge is a very, very underutilized tool. I think that especially for a pressing motion into the skin, which is my favorite way to apply cream products, I think that you really can't beat it. However, if you do prefer brushes, my favorite is the Rare Beauty foundation brush because it's meant to mimic fingers and it's meant to be used in that pressing motion. Applying cream products in a pressing motion rather than a dragging or a buffing motion is so much easier, I have found, and that for me really is the key with applying a cream blush to the cheeks. So let me show you what I would do. So you can see I've like used this for my foundation today. I'm going to take the product directly onto the dry sponge, and I can again take a little bit of the excess on the back of my hand. These, because the pigment isn't too intense, I find that they're just so easy to work with. You know, the more pigmented the blush, the more cognizant you have to be about, you know, how much you're putting directly onto the skin. And as far as a very classic, like natural plushy cheek look, I always like to, you know, look at where the apples of your cheeks are. So when I smile, they're right here. However, you can notice when my face drops, the apples kind of go down. So I always like to smile, and you know, typically people are gonna say, you know, smile and then put it directly there. I like to go a touch higher than that because I still want it to be a more plushy, round cheek look. I just don't want it to be too low on my face and kind of, you know, sag my face down. See, here it is. Apply it right above there. Not going down here. And you can see that we are pressing, we are not dragging. I can even use another side of my sponge to blend out any edges or blend out areas where I got too much product. You can see this is a very buildable formula. So you don't have to worry about, again, like a very apparent, like, you know, clown look on the cheeks. And then you can very softly bring it a little bit up here, but we're really more focusing it on the center of the face for this look. And again, I'm just taking the cream directly onto the dry sponge. And here's the thing, I talk a lot about why I use a dry sponge. I find that sometimes a very moist, sorry for using the word moist, sponge can mess with makeup under it. Not always, but I do find, as like a general rule, I find that people don't really wring out the sponge as much as they should. So if you do really wring out the sponge, like I don't think that you necessarily need to have a dry sponge, but I do think in general, a dry sponge is just very underrated. It still reabsorbs a little bit, but it's not going to be quite as absorbent as a wet sponge. And also sometimes I don't want to add any moisture back into the skin, and a damp sponge can do that sometimes. So I just love that color. I'm gonna apply a little bit more just because on camera, you know, you have to go a little bit heavier with makeup on camera just to make sure that it shows up. But when I smile, you get that really round, pretty cheek look. Very fresh looking. Like this placement is never going to look too dramatic. And again, you can take the other side of your sponge and just diffuse any edges that you need to. And also another reason why I really like a dry sponge with cream products is you can get like those triangle sponges at like Target. I think like a whole pack is probably like $2. And even a cheap sponge is going to apply makeup better than like a cheap brush will. You know what I mean? Like I do find that sponges in general, I just tend to like them and prefer them. Whereas, you know, if you get a cheap brush and it really does not want to press the product into the skin, you could be left with streaks. You can be left with like an irritated cheek. Like you couldn't actually make the cheeks feel like inflamed if the brush is really scratchy. I find that this is also like a really gentle way to apply the product. And again, on this side, there's the apple, and we're applying it right above. I love this color. This is the shade Blossoming, by the way. And I'm also wearing the Kjaer Weis cream shadows and their mascara as well. I figured because they were having that sale, I should try and like show you the products on my skin in case you guys were interested in any of them. So my favorite cream blush from Kjaer Weis is the shade Inner Glow, which is this shade right here. And in the next look, I'll show you guys how I use it to get a really gorgeous, like sculpted blush look. If you want to really take this look to the next level to like give you a really youthful look, I always recommend doing this. I like have done it for years, and I just find that I always feel like my makeup looks better when I do this. I take the excess and I put it right on the bridge of my nose. just a little bit. And I feel like that is what pulls my makeup together. That's what really gives me that true flushed look. And that, you guys, a very kind of classic plushy cheek look. Cream products do not have to be super complicated. I didn't wear any cream bronzer today just because I wanted to get you or give you the real like look at this color. But I can do like a whole video on cream bronzer if you guys are interested in that as well. But okay, let me take off this blush and then let's get into the Sculpted look. Okay, I did leave a little bit of the blush on my nose just because I like it that way. But let's get into the Sculpted cream cheek look. So again, what I like to do for this is focus on two different colors. The first color is really going to, you know, add that flush, add that color. And the second color is going to kind of be the sculpt. It's going to add a depth to the cheek look, almost the way that a contour would. As far as tools go, again, all you need is a dry sponge. You can use a brush. You could even use your fingers if you wanted to. But another tip I wanted to give you guys when it comes to like a dry sponge is that if you really like to use a wet sponge sometimes and a dry sponge other times, obviously you could just get two sponges, but you can always dampen only half. Like I've done that today. This side is damp, this side is dry. And because this side gives me more precision, I can use this dry sponge to like really build up pigment, and then I can diffuse with the fat side. So, you know, that's another quick tip I wanted to give you guys. But I'm going to use another shade from Kjaer Weis. We'll leave the shade names down below. But I just love this color. It's so freaking gorgeous for that really pretty like sunburnt kind of effect. It has a little bit of like a coral to it. And for the Sculpt shade, this is one of my favorite cream blushes I've ever used ever. And this is Kjaer Weis Inner Glow. And the reason I really love this shade is because it is the perfect like sculpting shade for me. The reason why, you can see that shade right there. So it's like a very like soft, pinky kind of cool tone shade, but it has that little touch of a taupe shift to it, and it actually also has a very slight like actual shift to the product that really just gives it like a nice glow rather than like a sparkle. None of these products have like a glittery sparkle to it at all, but it just shapes the cheeks and gives you that really like, it's like a sculpted but still plushy cheek look. I can't describe it, but this like shapes out the cheeks perfectly. Okay, but let me show you how I would do this. So again, I'm going to take our flush color first, and I'm going to use, again, just like a dry sponge to apply it. And I'm going to focus it on the cheekbones. So we're not gonna really focus too much on where the apples of the cheeks are for this look. And we're really just focusing on lifting the face with the blush, giving us that sculpt and lift. So I like to take it at the bottom of the cheekbone. So if you kind of feel where that is, I like to start it at the bottom and then just move it up. Not right where the cheekbone is, but like right under. That is where I'm going to take it and just follow the cheekbone. And you see how we're already getting like beautiful shape to the cheeks, and we haven't added like any bronzer. So it almost, for me, it looks even more fresh than a bronzer can sometimes. So that is what we're doing. Again, just focusing on really like sculpting it out. And then you can take the dry side of your sponge and use the excess that you have going on here and just blend it up. Blend it up into the hairline. You can even take it onto the temples. I do that as well. For me, you know, it's the more the merrier, but if you really want to keep it more natural, you can just use the excess to kind of blend and sheer out those edges. Same sponge, same everything, and do the same thing on this side. So kind of find the bottom of the cheekbone and just make that curve. Again, just following that cheekbone immediately gives you a really pretty lift while also, you know, adding color. And I love this color for this as well, because I feel like I could even skip bronzer with this color. I find that corals really add like such a gorgeous like sun flushed look. And see, you can again take a finger with these. These work beautifully with a finger. They're not going to mess with the makeup either. And I love this formula because it's very natural. The Kjaer Weis formulas, you know, they have a little bit of a glow, but they're not super creamy, dewy at all. But to get an extra amount of sculpt, I'm going to go in with the shade Inner Glow. And then I'm going to just focus this exactly where I want that shape. So if you look straight down into a mirror, you have to find exactly where you really want that lift. So for my face shape, it's right here. So I'm going to take it right there. And this is really towards the back where I really want that, like, that extra shape and that push upwards. So then I'm going to take it and press this in an up motion. Pressing the product up, don't drag it down. Because again, we are trying to lift the face. It doesn't have to remain just in that area. You really want a nice gradient. And there you go. So can you even see the difference between, this shade is like incredible. But do you see the difference between this side and this side? How this is like really, like it gives you that sculpt, it's really pretty, but this just adds this like lift immediately to the skin. Now, if you want to make sure that everything is blended like really seamlessly, just take the same sponge that has that other color on it, and again, just press right on top of it. And pressing is really the key here, you guys. I know I've said that like 10 times, but I really do feel like it's the key. And there you go. So I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. I'll show you guys again. Find exactly where you want that shape. For me, it's right there. Take a little bit more. I really like doing this too with blush as opposed to like contour, because I just find it looks more natural than contouring. It's like the most natural contour you could do. And then just blending upwards. Same thing we did. You see how the cheek just has so much more lift now? This definitely is an incredible way to shape the face without feeling like you're really sculpting too much. Again, it's like so natural. Just find those two colors, use one to add flush, use one with a touch of a cooler note to it, and then use it right in that hollow. And you will get that really pretty sculpted look. Now I gotta take this off and we'll go into the last look, which is how I brighten up the under eyes with blush. Okay, no blush on the face. Again, I kept a little bit on the nose. I'm watching my foster dog. I got a foster dog and he is like, he loves sitting in here while I'm filming. I'll put up a picture of him. Oh my gosh, he is like an angel. It's gonna be so hard to let go of him. He's incredible. All right, so again, now we're doing the kind of brightened under eye look. I've actually been seeing a lot of people on TikTok like do blush under the eyes, and okay, I'm a little bit salty. I'll be honest, I'm a little bit salty because I've gotten made fun of for doing that for so long on my channel. People are like, your blush is too far under your eyes. And I'm like, no, trust me, like it really helps with hollow eyes. I actually did recently, I'll leave the video link down below, how I do my makeup with hollow under eyes to give it like myself a really wide awake look. And I showed you guys how I apply my blush. This is essentially very similar to what I did in that video, but I wanted to add that to this video to give you another look and another piece of variety for, you know, how to work with cream products. And I'm going to use liquid this time to give you guys a better idea of how I would use a liquid blush. So this isn't necessarily color correction. You could definitely play around with using blush for color correction. The way I would do that under my eyes is I have a little bit more blue. So using kind of a lighter salmon color for the cheek color would, you know, help to further color correct there. But I do this with any color. So I'm going to be using the Rare Beauty. Which one do I want to use? Hope or Encourage? I think I'm going to use Encourage. And this is one of the liquid blushes. We're really focusing on cutting the hollow, and I know that sounds kind of bizarre, but what I mean by that is you want to add your blush perpendicular in a straight line from where your hollow is, not too far in past the pupil, but from here to the pupil right there. And you're gonna kind of cut it and go more in a horizontal line out this way. And it just, I swear, it really distracts away from the hollowness and adds a more brightened, like really youthful look. So again, let me show you how I would do that. And like I mentioned before, you don't have to you know, dot it directly onto the face. Take a little bit onto the back of your hand. And you know, the Rare Beauty liquid blushes are so pigmented. Even, I'm pretty sure on their website, if I can find it, I'll link it down below, you can get like a mini size, and I feel like even the mini will last you so long. But I'm going to go ahead and use a dry sponge. You can, I think especially with the Rare Beauty product, because it is so pigmented, you can definitely use a damp sponge. It'll help to absorb a little bit of the pigment, or you can even use their brush, though this is going to give you a more pigmented look as well. Actually, I'll show you. You don't have to be afraid of brushes. I've been using the sponge, so I'll show you with the brush. You go ahead and take the pigment onto the brush. Again, you can tap off the excess. You don't have to apply very quickly. You really want to focus on blending, or building, I mean. So again, we're focusing on cutting that hollow and adding this right under the eye. Do not be afraid of getting it close to even like your lash line. So again, just building up and creating this really pretty color right there. And I'm taking it up onto the cheekbone. You can also use the excess and kind of, you know, taper out the color right there as well. But I'll do the same thing on this side as well. And then I'm gonna finesse the color a little bit and show you the final product. But just lay down that color. Again, looking in a mirror really helps. Directly under the pupil and outwards. And just flush out that color onto the cheeks. You see how even with a brush, I'm not, you know, doing swirling motions, I'm just patting it. And this formula is, even though it's pigmented, you guys, it's so freaking blendable, especially the dewy formula. And I believe Encourage is the dewy formula. I love both formulas though. So now I'm building it up right here, right under that pupil. I want that to be really where the most color is. Just a little bit. You don't have to go crazy with it, but right there. And I find that it just really adds this gorgeous brightness to the under eye, because I don't know if you guys are like this, but I find that when my under eyes are too starkly concealed, it can actually kind of have the opposite effect of what I'm going for. It can kind of look like reverse raccoon eyes kind of thing. Again, I know it seems kind of weird, but I personally just find that it adds this really pretty youthful look to the skin. And another quick tip I'm going to give you on how to apply cream blush is that if you have any excess and you're like, what do I do with the excess? If you have excess in your brush, you know, take a little bit on the back of the hand that you don't want, and add a little bit to the forehead. You're not gonna really notice it if you've really taken a lot of it off, but I'm telling you, the skin is not naturally one single color. You know what I mean? And so with color, you're really adding a nuance back to your skin. And again, even if you think about, you know, skin that has bronzer. Okay, like I want to add bronzer only up here and like this is where the sun would hit. Okay, I understand that. Don't you think that our forehead is a little bit flushed as well? You know, when we're running, or if we have a little bit of color or even a touch of burn there, you know what I mean? Not that we really burn anymore, right? Because we're all wearing sunscreen. And see how it adds color, it adds a little bit of dimension. It doesn't look like straight blush. But it definitely just adds this really pretty nuance to the overall look of the skin. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. If you have any other questions, please leave them down below. I think I kind of want to do this with cream eyeshadow. If you guys want to see that video, leave me a comment down below. Again, I'll leave the first access link to the Kjaer Weis sale down below for you guys. And I apologize if you're watching this when the sale is already over. But thank you guys again so much for being here, and I'll see you in my next one.